That first split second when an avoidant sees you again after a long silence is where the whole truth lies, and almost none of it is visible to the naked eye, because before they even manage a hey, their nervous system has already reacted, panicked, scanned you and chosen exactly what mask they're going to wear. You might think you're just two people in the same room again, catching each other's eye after a long time. They might look calm, casual, even slightly bored. But in that first moment, their body tells on them. Their heart rate jumps, their breath catches, their chest tightens for half a second, their stomach drops just a little. Their mind flashes with a flood of images and feelings that come and go too quickly to consciously process. You don't see all that. You just see them blink, glance, maybe shift their posture. Inside, their whole system just went on high alert. For an avoidant, you are not just someone they used to know. You are someone who got close enough to touch the parts of them they usually keep locked down, and their body remembers that even if their ego pretends it doesn't. The moment their senses register you, their brain does what it has always done in emotionally intense situations. It grabs for control. That's the panic you'll miss. It's not dramatic, it's not them collapsing or running out of the room. It's that inner jolt of, oh no, it's them, followed by an immediate clamp down. Don't react, don't show it, hold it together. Their eyes flicker over you, quick but precise. They take in everything at once: how you're dressed, whether you look happier or heavier, whether you've changed your hair, what expression is on your face, if you're alone or with someone, if you look away or hold their gaze. That scan is not random curiosity. It's their nervous system gathering data. Are they hurt? Are they mad? Are they glowing? Are they ignoring me? Do I still have an effect on them, or are they completely over it? They're assessing emotional risk in less than a second. And the information they think they see in you will determine which version of themselves they decide to perform. As soon as the scan is done, they reach for a mask, and they do it so quickly that even they don't experience it as a conscious choice. It's muscle memory. If they think you look strong and unbothered, their ego might kick into defensive charm, extra friendliness, extra jokes, pretending nothing ever happened. If they think you look guarded or distant, they might put on a cooler, more aloof mask like, oh hey, didn't even realize you'd be here, how's life? As if the silence between you was just a few casual missed calls, not an entire chapter of history. If they raid anger or coldness in your eyes, they might go into an overly polite, almost formal mode, keeping everything neutral so they don't have to feel the full impact of the hurt they caused. Each mask has one job: to protect them from feeling too exposed in front of you. Because you are not just any person. You are the one who saw behind their usual walls, and that is what makes seeing you again so threatening to their sense of control. What makes this so confusing for you is that you're only seeing the final product, the mask they settled on, not the rush that came before it. You don't see the micro expression where their eyes soften and widen before they harden. You don't see the little swallow they do before they speak. You don't feel the wave of, I know them, I remember this, I still feel something, that hits before their ego quickly reorganizes the scene into something safer like, we're just two people saying hi, nothing more. They've spent a lifetime learning how to compress their reactions so that what comes out of their mouth is always slower and more controlled than what hits their heart. That's why they can walk up and say, hey, long time, with a tone that sounds almost indifferent, while their body is buzzing with awareness of you. In that same split second, they are also choosing how much history they're willing to acknowledge. Do they act like they barely remember anything? Do they act overly warm to signal, no hard feelings, right? Do they keep it short so they don't open emotional doors they're not ready to walk through? All of that is decided in that tiny window after they see you and before they speak. It's like an internal menu pops up for them. Play it cool, play it kind, play it distant, play it funny, and they'll pick whatever feels least risky for their pride. Meanwhile, your mind might be spinning with months of questions, pain, growth, and imagined conversations, and you judge yourself against their apparent calm. You think, they're so composed, I must have meant nothing, when in reality, they're not calm, they're contained. Their nervous system felt the hit of seeing you and responded exactly the way it always has when it's scared die, by shutting emotion down and slipping into performance mode as fast as possible so they don't have to reveal how much is actually going on inside. The moment an avoidant sees you again after a long silence, they don't just see you. They do a hidden full body scan in one fast glance that tells them more than any conversation ever will. And that scan is not about fashion or weight or surface details. It's about one thing. How much power do you still have over me? And how much power do I still have over you? Their eyes sweep over you so quickly you almost miss it, but in that split second they are taking in everything: your glow, your posture, your confidence, your eyes, the way you're standing in the room. Whether you're folded into yourself or anchored in your own energy now, whether you're searching for them or barely acknowledging their presence. They are trying to answer a question that terrifies them. Are you still the person they left behind, emotionally torn open, or are you now someone who survived them and grew stronger? When their gaze lands on your face, they're not just thinking, do they look good? They're thinking, do they look like they cried over me or healed from me? And if your face carries softness without desperation, ease without performance, it unsettles them more than if you walked in trying to prove you've leveled up. Their scan is hunting for signs of pain they can recognize, or signs of indifference they don't know how to handle. They watch the way you move, how you talk to others, how you laugh, whether that laugh is heavy and performative or light and genuine. If you look tired, smaller, dimmed, a guilty part of them feels confirmed. See, I was too much for them. I had to step away. And yet another part of them whispers, you know you contributed to that, and they push that voice down. If you look brighter, healthier, more grounded, it shakes their ego because it forces them to see that life went on without them, and maybe even got better. And that's a reality avoidants spend a lot of time avoiding. Their eyes linger on your body language longer than you realize. If you used to be the one leaning toward them, now they're checking. Are you leaning into your own space instead? Shoulders back, chin level, open but not offering yourself like a sacrifice. They notice if you're glued to your phone or fully present in the moment. They notice if you're anxiously tracking the room or simply enjoying where you are, because all of that tells them how much of your identity still orbits them. They're also scanning your social status in that moment. Who's near you? Are people drawn to you? Are you the one lighting up conversations? Is there someone beside you whose energy feels close or intimate? They won't label it jealousy out loud, but inside there's a twist in their stomach when they see that someone else might now occupy the emotional space they assumed would always be reserved for them. When their gaze meets your eyes, even for a second, the scan intensifies. Your eyes are the one place they can't fully defend against. They look to see if your eyes still carry that old question, why did you do this to me? Or if there's a new steadiness there that says, I've answered that question on my own. If your eyes are wet, searching, desperate, they feel both powerful and sick. Powerful because it confirms, I still matter this much to you. Sick because at some buried level, they know they do not deserve that level of access after what they did. If your eyes are empty toward them, cold and shut down, it stings their ego because it tells them they're no longer special enough to trigger emotion in you. But if your eyes are calm, kind, distant in the healthiest way, as in, you see them clearly but you are no longer reaching, that is what rattles them the most, because it tells them you've stepped out of the role they depended on you to play, the one who always cares more. And then comes the part of the scan they would never admit. They look for signs that you've moved on emotionally, not just physically. Did your social media glow turn into real life light, or is it just a filter? They look at the way you hold your own boundaries in that environment, how you respond when they're near, if you immediately shrink, overcompensate, or stay exactly as you were. They are tracking whether your nervous system still reacts to them the way it used to. Are your hands shaking? Are you fidgeting? Are you avoiding their gaze like you're afraid to crumble? Or are you just steady? A steady you is terrifying to an avoidant who built their sense of safety around the idea that you would always be emotionally available, always emotionally open, always emotionally affected by them. That one glance tells them whether they could still walk back into your life with minimal effort, or whether they'd be meeting someone new, someone who has learned how to choose themselves. And as they finish that hidden scan, something settles in their chest, even if they hide it well, either a smug, self-protective reassurance that nothing has changed, which lets them stay asleep in their old patterns a little longer, or a quiet, unnerving awareness that everything has changed, that you are no longer waiting in the same spot they left you, and that if they ever want access to you again, it will cost them something they've spent their whole life avoiding. Honesty, effort, and the courage to meet you at the level you now hold for yourself. There is this split-second war that erupts inside an avoidant the moment their eyes land on you again, and if you don't understand it, you will keep misreading their performance as the truth. Their heart jumps first. That part of them that remembers how your laugh felt in the middle of a bad day, how your presence softened their edges, how you became the one person they could text about absolutely nothing and somehow feel lighter afterward. That heart reaction is not subtle on the inside, it's a jolt. A sharp, almost painful recognition. It's them. Their body responds before their brain can spin a story. Their chest tightens, their stomach flips, their breath catches, their mind flashes with images: the last hug, the last fight. The last time you looked at them like you were both in the same storm together. For a heartbeat or two, they're not in the present moment anymore. They're in the entire history of you. That is their heart. That is the part of them that never stopped registering you, even while they were silent. But barely a second later, the ego steps in like a bouncer, shoving that heart into the back room. The ego's job is simple: never let them feel too much, never let them look weak, never let them risk humiliation or rejection. So it slams its hand down on the emotional volume. Stand up straight. Don't stare. Don't smile too big. Don't let them see you. That's when you see the blink, the shrug, the little half smile, or the cool nod. It's not that they didn't feel anything. It's that the ego layered over it, forcing them to act like you're just another familiar face in a crowded room, someone they once knew, nothing more. Inside, two truths are fighting. The heart is saying, I missed you. I'm relieved and terrified to see you. I wonder how you've been. I feel something waking up that I kept trying to sedate. The ego is saying, absolutely not. You're not going to let them see the impact. Remember how out of control you felt last time. Remember the conflict. Remember the shame. You will not give them that much power again. So instead of walking toward you with honest eyes and a vulnerable, hey wow, they choose small talk, half-turned shoulders, a neutral, hey how are you, as if the silence between you was no bigger than a few skipped messages. Their ego masks everything in normalcy because normalcy is their armor. They crack a joke, they overdo the casual tone, they look past you quickly, they talk to other people louder, all in service of one goal: keep the heart under control. And you, standing there with your own heart pounding, see only the end result of that war: the flattened expression, the coolness, the impression that they're barely affected. You feel your own heart sink. Wow, I meant nothing. They're completely fine. You don't realize they are doing to themselves what they once did to you: shutting down feeling, pretending the connection is lighter than it is, minimizing the depth so they don't have to face what it would mean to own it. In that moment, their heart wants to stare a little longer, to absorb the new version of you, to apologize without words, to say, you look different, you look stronger, I remember more than you think. Their ego wants to keep everything ambiguous, to maintain the illusion that they are the one in control. So if your eyes carry softness, their heart aches, but their ego will look away first. If your eyes carry distance, their heart panics, but their ego will smirk or shrug like it's nothing. If your energy is calm and self-contained, their heart leans in, but their ego leans back. This war doesn't stop when the interaction ends, it follows them out the door. Their heart replays the moment obsessively. How your voice sounded, how your smile looked, whether there was hurt or peace in your eyes. Their ego rewrites the scene to protect them. It was no big deal, they seemed fine. It didn't affect me. Later, when they're alone, the heart wins in flashes, those quiet pangs in the chest, that heavy exhale, that sudden wave of what did I do? The ego rushes back in with excuses and narratives. But if you want to understand that moment when they see you again, you have to stop believing their ego's performance is the full story. The full story is this: their heart reacted immediately, loudly, honestly. Their ego just moved faster to cover it, and all you got to see was the mask they've spent a lifetime perfecting. The second an avoidant sees you again and realizes your energy is not the same as before, something very specific happens inside them that they will never admit out loud. The story they've been telling themselves to stay comfortable starts to glitch, because to survive the breakup, the silence, the distance, they had to create a version of you in their mind that made it easier to walk away. They were too much. They needed me more than I needed them. They were too emotional. They wouldn't have been happy with someone like me anyway. These lines became their shield, their justification, their excuse to not look at their own fear and avoidance. And for a while, from far away, that story works. They don't see your growth. They don't see your healing. They don't see your late night breakdowns followed by your early morning strength. They see only what their ego allows. A frozen image of you at your most hurt, your most desperate, your most confused. And they replay that version when guilt whispers, you hurt them, so they can answer, it was for the best. They were too much. But when they finally stand in front of the real, present version of you again, and your energy is different, calmer, more grounded, less reaching, less begging, more self-contained, that frozen image cracks. Suddenly the story that kept them comfortable doesn't quite match the person standing in front of them, and the brain hates that kind of mismatch. They clock it instantly, even if they act like they don't. They notice that you're not leaning in like before, not over-smiling, not scanning their face for clues, not desperate to fill awkward silences with nervous chatter. They notice that your body isn't turned toward them the way it used to be, that your eyes hold a kind of softness that doesn't spill into chasing, that your voice doesn't tremble or rush. There is a steadiness there that wasn't there last time, and their system reacts, because it means something changed in their absence and they had nothing to do with it. And that alone threatens their old narrative. In the story they told themselves, you were stuck. You were always going to be the one who wanted more, needed more, felt more. So seeing you now in your own center confronts them with a reality they didn't prepare for. You didn't stay frozen in the moment they left, you evolved. In that moment, they start quietly interrogating their own story. Were they really too much, or did they just want basic things I wasn't willing to give? Did they really need me more, or did I just enjoy feeling needed because it made me feel powerful? Was I actually protecting myself, or was I using that as a reason to avoid growing up emotionally? These questions might not form as full sentences, but they land as discomfort in the body, that tightness in the throat, that heaviness in the chest when they realize you no longer look like someone they can easily categorize as the messy one. Instead, you look composed, and not in a fake, social media way, but in a grounded way that says, I've seen hell and I'm still here. That energy forces them to see the gap between who you became and who they chose to remain, and that is where shame starts to seep in under the edges of their ego. To escape that shame, their mind will try to rewrite the story in real time. Sometimes you can even see it on their face, a flicker in their eyes while they're talking to you. They might think, maybe I misjudged them, and immediately follow it with, no, I had my reasons. They might think they actually look really good, really strong, and quickly coat it with, well, people always fake it after a breakup. Ego hates being wrong, especially about the people it hurt, because if their old narrative falls apart, you were too much, I had to leave, then they are left with a more painful truth. You were human, you were trying, I ran. So they reach for new justifications, telling themselves they've changed now. But back then they were different. Or they only look calm because they don't care anymore. Anything that lets them avoid sitting with the simple reality that you might have always been more powerful and more capable of growth than they allowed themselves to see. They also start rewriting the story about themselves, because your new energy makes their old image of the independent, strong one feel shaky. If you are now standing there radiant in your own self-respect, then what does that make them? The one who disappeared, stayed silent, chose comfort over courage. They may not say it, but a part of them feels smaller next to your expansion. And that's when the mental gymnastics begin. I'm still fine, I'm still in control. I chose this, they repeat even as a quieter voice in the background whispers. And they chose themselves in a way you never did. Your healed energy is like a mirror they didn't ask for, reflecting both their attraction to you and their avoidance of their own growth. And because that mirror is uncomfortable, they will either start moving toward accountability or double down on denial. But either way, the story has been disturbed, and they can't unsee what they saw in you. And here's the part you rarely realize. The minute they start questioning their old narrative about you being too much, they also start questioning their old narrative about what love is supposed to feel like. They once told themselves, if I feel overwhelmed, it means the relationship is wrong, but seeing you again, stronger, clearer, less entangled, forces them to ask, or was it my capacity that was too small? They once told themselves, they needed me too much, but now your energy says, I needed you then, I chose me now. And that is a storyline they have no rehearsed defense for, so they might get a little awkward, a little too jokey, a little overly casual, because their ego is scrambling to catch up with this new information. You are not the person their fear-based story painted you to be. You are bigger, wiser, more grounded, and that means their entire justification for how things ended is no longer clean and simple, and whether they ever admit it or not, from that moment on, every time they replay seeing you, they will also replay that feeling of was wrong about them, and that awareness sits inside them like a stone they can't quite swallow. The moment an avoidant slips into performance mode after seeing you again is the moment you're most likely to get fooled, because what you're watching is not their truth, it's their armor. And if you're not careful, you'll take that armor personally and stab yourself with it. When their nervous system has already panicked, scanned you, felt their heart react, and sensed that their old story about you doesn't quite fit anymore, They do what they've always done to survive emotional intensity. They perform, they flip a switch inside that says, I need to look okay, I need to look in control, I need to look like nothing touches me. So instantly, often within seconds. They adjust their body language, they tweak their tone, they shift their posture. Everything becomes a presentation, not a confession. You'll notice it if you know what to look for. Suddenly, they're laughing louder than the moment really calls for. They're extra animated with other people. They're overly engaged in a random conversation, checking their phone, acting busy, pointing out jokes. Like they're starring in a show called, I'm Totally Fine. It's not because they're genuinely having the time of their life. It's because you are in the room, and your presence is triggering a part of them they absolutely refuse to let be seen. In their mind, they're running a script. Do not let them see you hesitate. Do not let them see you stare. Do not let them see you soften. So they pour their anxiety into performance. If they're with friends, they might start talking more, dominating the space in a way they usually don't, because if you see them as the center of a lively scene, maybe you'll believe the story that they've moved on effortlessly. They stand a little taller, straighten their clothes, adjust their hair. Their face settles into that practiced expression, relaxed jaw, slight smirk, eyebrows lifted like they're vaguely amused by the world, but not moved by it. It's all choreography. Every extra joke, every casual shrug, every exaggerated, I'm good, is a line on a stage and the audience is you. But they're also performing for themselves, because if they can convince you that they're okay, maybe they can drown out the part of them that absolutely is not. What you don't see is that their body is doing something very different under the costume. Their palms might be slightly sweaty, their heart rate is elevated, they're hyper, aware of where you are in the room, even when they're not looking. Like a radar pinging off your presence. If you laugh with someone else, they hear it. If you move, they register it. If you step closer or farther, they feel it in the tension of their shoulders. But they'll tilt their head and act like they're lost in some random story their friend is telling. Because acknowledging that you still have that effect on them would mean admitting that the silence didn't erase what they felt. It just buried it. Performance mode is also how they avoid responsibility without saying a word. If they keep it light, nobody expects depth. If they act like everything is casual, nobody demands a real conversation. If they pretend you're just another person there, they don't have to face the fact that they walked away from someone who clearly rebuilt themselves without them. So when you see them cracking jokes, hugging people, acting unbothered, understand what's really happening. They're building a barrier in real time between their heart and you, because your existence in that space threatens the delicate balance they created in your absence, and the last thing their ego wants is to crack in front of you. The dangerous part for you is that old version of you wants to read their performance as proof that they don't care, proof that you were replaceable, proof that their life upgraded when you were removed. But if that were true, they wouldn't need the performance at all. True indifference is quiet. It doesn't show off. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't spike when you walk in the room. What you're seeing is not indifference. It's management. They're managing their image, their feelings, their fear, and their shame, all at the same time, and the quickest way to do that is to overplay. I'm fine, while underplaying the history between you. So your power in that moment is to stop taking their performance at face value and stop performing yourself. You don't need to get louder, prettier, funnier, or colder to match or beat them. You just need to stay real, grounded, present in your own body. Because while they're burning energy, keeping the show going, the person who is quietly calm, authentic, and not auditioning for anyone's attention is the one who actually holds the power in the room, including over how much access, if any, this performer ever gets to the real you again. The second you turn and walk away, the show they were putting on for you and everyone else stops, and this is where the truth finally catches up with them, because now there's no one to perform for, no audience to convince, no eyes to manage, just them, their body, and the echo of that moment replaying on loop. They can't stop it, even if they try. Your tone, your eyes, your distance, your posture, the way you carried yourself, the way you didn't rush, the way you didn't cling, all of it becomes a scene their mind keeps dragging back to the front, like a movie they didn't realize would hit them this hard. They might be in the car, at home, on their bed staring at the ceiling, pretending to scroll, half listening to music, but underneath it all their brain is pressing replay, pause, rewind, replay again. What did they say exactly? How did they say it? Did they sound angry? Did they sound done? Did they sound free? They remember the way you said, hey, or how are you? And they hear the difference. It wasn't dripping with old hurt or overflowing with desperate hope. It was steady, measured human. And that steadiness unnerves them far more than any tearful confrontation would have. They fixate on your eyes, because your eyes told them something your words didn't spell out. Once upon a time your eyes were full of questions and ache, searching their face for reassurance, for crumbs, for a sign that you weren't crazy for feeling what you felt. Now they replay that eye contact and realize there was no begging in it, no silent plea of, "Please don't hurt me again." There was recognition, there was history, but there was also an unmistakable distance, not the cold, shut-down distance of someone who hates them, but the grounded distance of someone who has learned how to love themselves more than the story they once wrote about the two of you. And that lands hard, because it tells them the power dynamic has shifted without their permission. Before, they could soothe themselves with the belief that you'd always be there if they ever decided to come back. Now they've just witnessed a version of you who might actually choose not to. They replay the way you stood, the way you held your body, because that too is data. Once you used to lean toward them, shoulders tilted in, heart practically on display, even when you were trying to act cool. Your whole nervous system was tilted in their direction. Now they remember how your feet were planted, how your shoulders weren't collapsed, how you didn't fold inward or shrink when you spoke, how you didn't hover, how you didn't linger in that awkward, needy way that says, "Please give me more." Instead, you matched the length of the moment, gave what felt appropriate, then let it end. And that ending is what their mind can't stop touching, because previously, you wouldn't have let it end. You would have filled the silence with explanations, questions, jokes, anything to keep a connection open. This time you let the silence be the period at the end of the sentence, and that quiet punctuation hits them harder in replay than any loud argument would have. They start obsessing over small things you did that signal big changes. How you didn't overshare, how you didn't rush to update them on your life, how you didn't ask for updates on theirs in a way that centered them, how your attention felt selective instead of automatic. They remember you looking at them like someone from your past, not your entire future, and that distinction gnaws at them, because it means they are no longer the axis your world spins on, just a chapter, important, impactful, but still a chapter, not the whole book, and that is a hit to their ego. Because their comfort once came from believing they were permanently central in your emotional universe, even if they never made you central in theirs. Lying there later, maybe pretending to be unfazed, they hear that small, unwelcome question rise up. Did I just meet a stronger version of the person I once took for granted? They remember your fragility, your tears, your long messages, your attempts to fix what they kept breaking. And then they compare it to the person who stood in front of them today. The person who didn't need them to validate their pain. The person who clearly found some way to patch their own heart together, with or without an apology. And that comparison stings because it shines a light on their own emotional stagnation. You moved, you healed, you expanded. They mostly repeated patterns and avoided feelings. They thought time and silence alone would absolve them. But instead, time and silence evolved you, and now they're confronted with evidence of that evolution every time their mind replays your calm face and controlled tone. The obsession isn't romantic at first, it's disorienting. They're not sitting there swooning over you. They're turning the moment over like a stone in their hand, trying to make sense of why it won't leave them alone. They tell themselves, it's just weird to see someone after so long. But if it were just that, it wouldn't keep tugging at their attention in random moments, mid-conversation with someone else, mid-scroll, mid-sleep. They wouldn't feel that weird tension in their chest. When they remember the way you didn't chase their gaze when they looked away, the way you didn't contort yourself to make them comfortable, the way your presence felt like its own gravity instead of an orbit around them, and the more they replay it, the more they realize that the person they once held all the power over has become someone they can't quite read, can't quite predict, can't quite assume will still be there if they decide to wander back. So they lie there in the dark, scrolling nothing, staring at a ceiling they've seen 100 times, replaying a few minutes that changed everything, asking themselves questions they don't want answered. If they're stronger now, what does that say about who I was then? What does that say about the way I left? And if I ever reach out, am I meeting the old them in my memory? Or this new version who might finally be strong enough to tell me no? That is the quiet obsession they will never post about, never confess, but it's there looping beneath every distraction, turning that brief encounter into a mirror they can't unlook into. Because in you, they just saw proof that healing is possible, and with that proof comes a terrifying, liberating truth they've spent years running from. They were never the only one who could walk away.